You know what? Normally, I'm the curator. Normally, I get the people on the stage, and normally, I don't do the talking. So this is a very special exception today. It teaches me what I'm asking other people to do, which is a great thing. I've been blown away by all the great talks so far. And I feel more enlightened, more inspired. And I guess all of you do the same. Think about it, though, as IQ. What would you say? Has your IQ been heightened or lowered after today? What if I'd say that it doesn't really matter? That IQ is an old-fashioned way of measuring intelligence. That in general, a lot of the stuff that they teach you at TEDxNUS, or any other schools for that matter, is already old-fashioned before you graduate. Let me show you why. But first, let's start with a story. Has anybody heard of bananas? Used as an expression for person. Yeah? Any ideas? Well, in Hong Kong, where I lived at one point, we used it as the expression of an Asian person who acted or had a Western lifestyle. And a lot of people ask me, why have you called your network for chi? And I give you the reason. Because I'm not a banana, I am this one. I look white, but in my heart, I love Asia. And that's why I'm here. But obviously, I didn't start here. I started here, a little white egg on the back of my mom's bicycle. In Denmark, very cold country, very far away. I grew up here with my grandmother and with my aunt and uncle. And it also shows you that it's not always cold in Denmark. You know? People say, oh, Denmark, you have 4 seasons. You're so lucky. In Singapore, you only have 1. But you know what? That's rubbish. I would say that in Singapore, you have 2. You have summer outside, and then we have winter inside. I was a fairly happy girl until I came to school. At school, I was the one that all the girls didn't like. That's why, hence, you'd find me in the first row together with all the boys. Girls can be very mean to each other. And they somehow decided that I didn't fit into their world. So what did I do? My parents divorced when I was 9. I moved around schools with my mom and my little brother. And I could either kind of give up and say, okay, I'm an outcast, or I could create my own world. And that's what I did. This is a drawing of me made by one of my classmates. And at that time, I decided that things like homework didn't fit into my world. I wasn't lazy, though. I did a lot of things, including this. When I was about 15, instead of homework, I would go to the shop and buy all the newspapers. And I would read every single newspaper I could get hold of. I would then teach myself how to do photography. And I would get all my friends together. They happened to be super beautiful, very tall, very nice, and they all wanted to be models. So I would take pictures of them, like this one, you see. And they would use them to become models, and I would make some money, so it was kind of a business. And also, I joined the political movement, and at 15, I became the editor of the magazine. So, yeah, I didn't do homework, but I was pretty busy. I don't think I was the easiest teenager. I don't think most of us are. At one point, my parents got quite, I think, tired of having me in the house, so they said, "Why don't you go away for a year?" And I said, "That's a great idea. I would love to go to Japan or Brazil," and ended up going to Brazil. A year. A very, very meaningful year. Because, you know, in Denmark, everybody tells you that money makes you happy. And then you go to Brazil, and then you see all these poor people that are much more happy than the guys back home. And you think, hold on, I mean, why is it that, I know that Danes are supposed to be the happiest nation in the world, but it's mostly because we have so low expectations of life that we don't get disappointed. The Brazilians, on the other hand, they have high expectations of life, and they live life. And even the poorest ones tend to be happier than most of the people I knew. And it planted that seed inside that questioned materialism and economic growth. But nothing happened for many years. What happened was I went back, I forgot about it, I went to school, I went to business school, and then I met this guy. In Singapore, you would call him a ranger. Is that correct? The kind of top elite forces, top special commands. And he was a very, very tough guy. And I got to spend a weekend with him, together with some of my fellow university students. And we were there, and we went through all these exercises you do. And in the end, he would kind of tell us what he thought about our personality and so forth. And he said, "Kristine, you know, I don't think you should be a soldier." I was like, I was planning to. But he said, you're too independent. You would never survive in the army and, you know, taking orders from everybody. But you have great talents, and what I advise you is just to follow your dream. And a few years later, I decided to follow my dream, and my dream was to come to Asia. So I went to Hong Kong, and I got myself 2 jobs. I got one day job where I was managing special projects for a big fashion brand called Diesel. And then I got a night job that was head of fundraising for a charity called Sunbeam. I guess I'm more proud of my night job today, because even though Diesel is a very cool brand, Sunbeam is a little orphanage in Taiwan in China with 105 kids. And we just sent the first fleet to university. And that's meaningful. However, even though I loved Hong Kong, I went back to take a job offer in the south of France. The job offer was very promising. This is the year of the internet, And there was these two guys, they got 32 million euros in seed funding. Don't know if any of you remember these days. They were quite crazy. And they opened up offices in London, Nice, Paris, and New York, and decided to take on the fashion world by the internet. I took up the job offer. I went to Nice. I got myself a 5-bedroom apartment, because the ones of you who have been to Hong Kong, you know that, they're pretty small. And here I was, lots of money, big flat, and then they ran out of money, and they closed the offices. And there I was, no job, no friends. I didn't even speak French, which is pretty useless when you're living in France, right? However, sometimes you just have to do things. People said, Kristine, you know what? Maybe you should go back to Denmark. And I said, no, I started this, I'll continue. I got together with 3 other colleagues, and we started our own trend agency. It was called Style Vision. And we did a lot of amazing projects. We did everything that people said we couldn't do. We created our company. We had clients, some of the most prestigious clients in the world. And life was good. It got even better because I fell in love, and I had my biggest success, which was my little daughter Alexandra. A bit later, Beatrix, Bibi, followed. And kids, they show you a really healthy perspective. Healthy perspective is not what you find in the south of France, though. Here, it's all about champagne, fast cars. This is from a party, yeah, you probably recognize him, Victor Malia, an Indian billionaire who's bought a kind of castle on his own island outside Cannes. It drew on me that perhaps it was time to go back to my home, Asia. And in 2009, we got the chance. We had some interesting, my partner got some interesting contracts from Bangkok and Singapore, and we took the leap. And I remember this is a Thursday. We had packed everything. The container was on the way on the Wednesday. The kids were home. The house was empty. Everything was ready to go. And then the phone rings. And the guys say, I'm very sorry, but you know what? That big contract, our board said no, and we have to cancel it because this was a luxury hotel, and all their clients were basically not showing up. And then, second crisis, right? With now Singapore, no job, no home. Okay, I did speak the language, but it was kind of more serious because it wasn't just me, it was a family. And I thought of this quote. In a crisis, a dog learns to jump a wall. And you know what? I'd spent all these years doing a commercial job during the day and some social work at night. And I decided to finally combine the two into one. So this is the one. From a little hotel room called Writer's Lodge up in Bukit Timah, where we lived 3 months. I started writing a business plan for Chi, social enterprise, with the mission of human progress and harmony with nature. Let's try to do both. I wasn't clear to begin with what we were going to do, but I knew that this is what I wanted to do. And then we just had to find a way around it. This is what it means. This is what I talked about intelligence. IQ is very much the part of the old industrial mindset. It's very much a way that was good, but not anymore. Now we have a new situation which requires a new mindset and a new intelligence. We have to, and we want to, create the intelligent age. And some of the elements, for example, is to move away from the focus of just one financial goal into a triple bottom line. We have a situation, somebody told me, that the cleverest chess player in the world has just been beaten by a supercomputer. So it means that knowledge is not really anything worth, because the computers and the robots will have more knowledge than we can ever have as a human person, a human being. But what they cannot do so far is being creative. I like this picture. We spent a long time actually choosing the pictures, and we couldn't find pictures for this slide. But then a great friend, Frederick Herron, who is the author of an idea book, he said, for him, creativity is two previously known ideas combined into one. I know it's a bit silly, but here you have the poodle that has great fur because it doesn't shed the fur, so it's good for people with allergy. And then you have a Labrador who's very gentle. And then if you combine the two, it's called a Labradoodle. And it's a Labradoodle that doesn't, it's good for people with allergy, and it's also a very sweet dog. So that's how we decided to show creativity. Performance will be so old-fashioned. It's not about what you perform, it's about what you contribute. Exclusivity, also part of the industrial mindset. Inclusiveness is much more interesting, the way to go forward, including status will be replaced by meaning. Brand advertising is also industrial mindset. And we would look at product provenance. Who made it and where does it come from? This cradle to death, the consumer society that puts everything in landfills, into a whole idea of how nature works. However, as you see, all this was just ideas, right? Created in this little hotel room in Bukit Timah. In order to launch it, we needed seed funding. We spent all our remaining savings into one night. That night was the 8th of October, 2009. It was very scary. Imagine, you take everything you have 2 little babies at home, and blow it on one evening. But it was necessary because we needed to show people what she felt like. A lot of people said, okay, it sounds great, but what is it? So we invited 6 speakers, got 200 people together at the National Museum, and had a great night. And this guy you see there in the picture, his name is Oscar. He was sitting in the crowd just like you guys. And he became our investor. He became our business angel. And he made it possible to scale. What are we doing? We're basically a network. Think of it like we are the seed, businesses is water, and our achievers network, our social entrepreneurs are the sun. If you have seeds, water, and sun, you get growth. Growth like this which is a concept I know some of you have seen outside. So we're collecting from ring pools, creating beautiful bags. Not only that, though, we're scaling it. This morning, I had a meeting with 8 people. We are going to launch in 2012 the first ever luxury fashion bag with a world-famous brand name behind it that is produced by poor women who will get an education in return of being involved in producing the bags. So basically, you buy a branded luxury bag, and through that, you give a very poor Asian lady an education. That's what we're doing. But what has that to do with pancakes? And that's my end. I know that you all probably thought, what was the egg and the banana really about? And of course it's simple, because if eggs and banana can work together, this is what you get. Pancakes. I don't know if it ever happened on TED before that you've got a recipe, but here it is. It's my favorite Sunday pancakes. We make them every weekend for the girls. And if you have any questions about pancakes or anything else I've said, then feel free to contact me. Thank you.